Every single organization, big or small, has way more ideas for projects than it can possibly handle. So how in the world do you pick the ones that are actually going to be winners? You know the feeling, right? You've got all these amazing ideas, a whole pipeline of potential game changers. But the reality is, you only have the time, the money, and the people for maybe one or two of them. This is the classic resource problem. So how do you make the right call? Okay, so let's dive right in. The first set of tools we're going to look at, I like to think of them as the compass methods. They aren't about complicated spreadsheets or math. Nope, they're all about setting a direction, kind of pointing you north based on what's absolutely necessary. And first up is one you've probably seen before, the sacred cow. This is that project that gets going simply because a powerful executive, the boss, had the idea. And it just keeps on rolling until that very same boss is the one who finally says, okay, we're done here. Then we've got the operating necessity. This one's pretty straightforward. It's a project you have to do, just to keep the lights on and the business running. Think about it this way. If a flood is threatening your factory, building a wall to stop it isn't really a choice, is it? It's a must-do for survival. And that's a little different from the competitive necessity. This one is all about staying in the game and keeping up with everyone else. For example, a university might absolutely need to update its MBA program. Why? To keep attracting the best students. It's not about surviving today, it's about making sure you're still in the race tomorrow. So let's just break that down real quick. An operating necessity is about staying in business. A competitive necessity is about staying ahead of the business. And you can probably guess which one usually wins when push comes to shove. Survival pretty much always comes first. Now, these necessity models are great when a decision is super obvious. But if you only rely on them, you can get stuck just putting out fires and you might miss some huge opportunities. So what do you do when you have a whole list of good ideas, but none of them are an absolute must-do right now? How do you rank them? Well, that's where something called the Q-sort model comes in. It is such a simple, elegant system for making sense of it all. Step 1, just sort all your projects into 3 piles: good, fair, and poor. Easy. If any of those piles gets too big, like more than 8 projects, you just split it up again. And finally, you rank the projects within each little pile. It forces you to decide what's more important, even without any hard numbers. Okay, so if that first set of tools was our compass, this next set, well, this is our calculator. We're shifting gears now from gut feel and strategy to the cold, hard numbers. These models are all about answering one really important question. Is this thing actually going to make us money? And the simplest financial question you can possibly ask about any project is, how fast do we get our money back? And that question leads us straight to the payback period. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's the amount of time it takes for the money a project brings in to pay back the initial money you spent to get it started. It's all about the speed of your return. Let's look at a super simple example. Say a project costs $200,000 and it's going to bring in $40,000 a year. You just divide the costs by what it brings in annually. Boom, your payback period is 5 years. Pretty simple, right? But, and this is a big but, there's a major catch. The payback period has one huge flaw. It totally ignores something called the time value of money. And because of that, you could end up picking a project that pays back fast over one that would have been way more profitable in the long run. To fix that problem, we need to talk about net present value, or NPV. The logic here is so important. $1 today is worth more than $1 next year, right? Because of inflation, because you could invest it. So what NPV does is it calculates what all of a project's future earnings are worth in today's money. If that number is positive, you've got a green light. Now, a close cousin of NPV is the internal rate of return, or IRR. The best way to think about IRR is that it's the project's own personal interest rate. It's the exact rate of return that would make the project break perfectly even, where the NPV is exactly 0. And this is the key thing to remember about it. IRR is not a dollar amount. It's the annual percentage return. So a project with a higher IRR is a better investment, which makes it a really powerful way to compare different options side by side. So, we've looked at the strategic compass and the financial calculator. But here's the thing. Rely only on the compass and you might fund some expensive pet projects. Rely only on the calculator and you might miss a massive strategic move. So what if you want the best of both worlds? Well, that brings us to creating a custom scorecard. And the big question we're trying to answer here is this. How can you possibly blend those kind of subjective strategic goals with hard objective numbers to make a really smart, balanced decision? The answer is something called the weighted scoring model. It's brilliant. First, you decide on the criteria that really matter to you, like how well does it fit our strategy? What's the market potential? Then you give each of those criteria a weight based on how important it is. Finally, you score each project on a scale of, say, 1 to 10 for each criterion. You do the math, and out comes a single objective number. And in this case, you can see Project A, with a score of 6.8, is the clear winner. All right, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's pull all these threads together and figure out how you choose the best tool for the job. So here it is, your project selection toolkit, all simplified. On one side, you've got the compass, those non-numeric models that give you your strategic direction. On the other side, you've got the calculator, the numeric models that give you the financial proof. And what we've seen is that using one without the other can be really risky. The absolute best decisions happen when you use them together. And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. The next time you have a big decision to make about a project, are you going to reach for the strategic compass, the financial calculator, or are you going to build a scorecard that uses both?